Here's Brody Brazil.
I'm not sure there's going to be a ton of actual A's baseball content from me this season here on YouTube. I just don't know if the appetite is fully there, but I wanted to go ahead and approach some expectations for this 2024 baseball team and if they've gotten any better from the 50-112 record that they posted last season. That was the second in a row 100-loss season for the Oakland A's. Let's begin on that note. I think they're likely going to end up somewhere between 50 to 60 wins. Now, I know the skipper Mark Kotsay said, aim to be a 500 team. We have to start somewhere, and that's where the aim is. And look, I think that's honorable. I think there's a lot to that. I think that's exactly where you start when you're like the A's, who were 60-102 2 years ago and 50-112 in 2023. Start at being a 500 team before you think about anything else. Don't talk about winning this, doing that. 500 has to be the aim, and then you go from there. But this is also a team that didn't really add a bunch of reinforcements during the winter. Free agent signings, a couple, picked up J.D. Davis off waivers, Ross Stripling in a trade. But this team didn't really largely improve themselves other than the young players and the maturation process they're going through. Only youth improvements, in my opinion, are going to make this Oakland A's team better from last season to this season. And at 50-112, you might remember at one point they were 12-50, I want to say. So think about the rallying they had to do in the second half of the season just to get to 50 wins. And that's kind of the difficult spot here when you think about projecting and panning out. Yeah, they can be better, but being better might only put them at 52, 53, 55, 57 wins. And I think that's kind of where the bar has been set by odds makers, about 57.5 wins for the Oakland A's. Only youth, in my opinion. No free agent signing, no additions to the team. Heck, there's not even any player under contract right now for the 2025 season. There's players under team control. Almost all of them are. But there's actually no player under contract right now for 2025 for the Athletics, wherever they call home. And this is a team that struggles to get hits. This is a team that, because of that, struggles to score runs. When you get a good performance by one of your pitchers and the bullpen's good and you lose the game 2-0 and you got 2, 3, or 4 hits, it's frustrating because when you hold the other team to 2, generally speaking, you should be able to outscore that and win yourself a baseball game. And I mentioned the 2 straight 100-loss seasons. The A's in their time during their Oakland years, they've only had 3 100-loss seasons. 1979, 2022, and now 2023. And this might be, obviously, a 50 to 60 win season is going to put you having a third straight 100-loss season. And so I think if you're just waiting around for these young players, and it's no disrespect to them, the Ryan Nodas, the Zack Gelofs, the Lawrence Butlers, the Esteury Ruizes, they are going to get better. But if you don't help them and support them and surround them, they're not going to get away from this all by themselves in the immediate future. And a guy like Zack Gelof, I love him. He's great. Ruiz, Butler, I love them. They're great. J.P. Sears, Mason Miller, I love them. They're great. I think Zack Gelof is easily capable of hitting a 275 average this year. He had 300 plate appearances last season, basically got called up at the All-Star break, was one of the better second basemen of Major League Baseball in the second half last year, had a 267 batting average. So I'm basically only saying here, give me more of what you did last year and do it for a full season this year. Now, easier said than done because he did play so well, but if he's capable of that, hitting 267 last year, I think he's easily capable of hitting 275 this year. Of his 72 hits last year, he had 20 doubles and 14 dingers, right? He can find the gaps. He can hit them over the fence. He also walked 26 times, but struck out 82 times in those 300 plate appearances. That's a .337 on-base percentage. Got to work on the strikeout to walk ratio there, but especially just cutting down the strikeouts, if nothing else. But again, a sure-handed second baseman, one of the best in baseball at his position in the second half last year. I think if I'm panning out all-star candidates for the A's, like they're probably going to have one, it should probably be Zack Gelof if he does what a lot of people think he could and should do. And I'll also add this. I love getting the dirt, the inside information. Dave Stewart, my buddy, my coworker, he was embedded with the A's during spring training. Like, he got to spend real time with them on the field. And he gives the ultimate compliment to Zack Gelof, saying that Gelof reminds Stu of Carney Lansford back in the 80s and 90s, a true dugout leader, a true field leader. He plays with confidence. He's constantly communicating, captain-like material from a guy who doesn't even have a full MLB season under his belt. I've obviously met Zack enough times. I've talked to him enough to know this is the dude right here. And I wish him even better than 275, but that's at least the expectation for him this year. And I didn't even want to say homers. I'm just saying do what you did last year, and I think people are going to love that. I'm also here to tell you that I think Wood, Stripling, and Davis are here now and probably gone by the trade deadline. Alex Wood was signed. Ross Stripling was a trade from the Giants. They both came from San Francisco, and J.D. Davis was waived by the Giants kind of late in spring training. As soon as San Francisco got Matt Chapman, there was no room for J.D. Davis. But all three of those players, like I mentioned before, not under contract for 2025. And that's why I think if they play well, they carry value, they perform as most would expect, they'll probably be dealt by the July 30th trade deadline. In part because maybe the A's want to use those spots to bring up younger players in the second half. They're trying to showcase, but also because they're just looking to turn and flip and get value, and it's just what they always do. I would be highly surprised if all three of those players are on the A's post July 30th. I'm saying all three of them probably performing well and then traded, but at least one that's going to happen to, if not two, but quite possibly all three. Esteury Ruiz, I think he can steal 70 more bases in 2024. Now, I said last year when he was on pace and really doing his thing in the first half, I thought he could easily get to 80. He played 132 games last year. He had 67 swipes last year. But then he missed an entire month right before the All-Star break until, 3 or 4 weeks later with a shoulder injury. He was diving back into first base, tweaked his shoulder. He was out, missed a bunch of games. And then when he came back, Lawrence Butler was brought up and inserted into the lineup, and Ruiz wasn't even an everyday player after that, like he was before that. So I think Esteury can definitely get to 70 steals. Heck, he had 67 last year, which he reached on the last day of the season, the new American League rookie steals record. But he needs to stay, number one, healthy. Number two, he needs to earn his way into the lineup on an everyday basis in a defensive outfield position. And then number three, he needs to get on base. He needs to create ways to get on base more often, because last season, in 497 plate appearances, he only had 20 walks. Right? That number has to go way up because you need to be on base to steal more bases, right? So I think for Ruiz, you add in the era that we're in with the pitch timer and the disengagements, and I mean, he was going to steal a lot of bases regardless, but now with these new rules instituted last year, he got to 67. I think he can get to 70 this year or beyond. And again, just like Gelof, I'm putting up that number. I think he can match it. I hope he can exceed it. And I also think this year, some expectations for the A's would mean that some roles get earned. Like Mason Miller, who we found out back in winter meetings in December. General Manager David Forst said, we love Miller, we love his velocity, but everybody's frustrated by the fact that he can't finish full seasons. He cannot stay healthy as a starter. So they're going to move him to the bullpen. Well, the first inclination is, look at his velo, look at his stuff. He's easy 100 out of his back pocket. He's 102 on the gun sometimes. If you're going to move him to the bullpen, why not give him the closer role if, in fact, that's something he could be moved into? It's my prediction, and we'll have to wait because as I'm recording this, the A's haven't won a game yet. But I think you're going to see a couple guys floated out there. I think by the end of April, probably by the end of May for sure, Mason Miller is going to be the closer of this team. Now, are they going to have as many save opportunities as you'd like? Probably not if the win prediction holds up. But I think that the closer role is going to go to him, and I think he's going to thrive in that. I think when it's his turn to close out a game in a save situation, he'll definitely get it done. Darrell Hernaiz, a .291 career hitter in the minors. He plays infield spots. He plays third base. He plays short. He plays second base, which I think is pretty well spoken for right now with Zack Gelof. But should there arise a need at short, or if J.D. Davis is no longer on the team at third base, I think Darrell is your shoe-in for one of those infield spots. Yeah, probably on the left side of the infield. Have heard great things about him coming up. Pure baseball player, pure hitter, good defensively out in the field. So if you're looking for the next big thing position player-wise, I think Darrell Hernaiz he's already made his debut, got a pinch hit at bat on opening night. I think Darrell Hernaiz is going to stand out this year and earn a role. And then there's Lawrence Butler, who we saw last year for 42 games, but just struggled to hit it consistently. Had a couple multi-hit games, had flashes to prove that, yeah, he belongs here and he's going to do his thing here, but it's just about getting more consistent. And again, are we basing this off 42 games in the second half of last year? I'm really excited for him this year that he gets the full season. So let's not even call last year the freshman season. Let's call this year the freshman season. This is not even the sophomore season. This is the real rookie season for Lawrence Butler, even though he was up last year. I want to see him hit. I want to see him make adjustments. I know the league is going to adjust to him once he gets sustained success. But I think Lawrence Butler, you can just see it. The tools, the approach, the charisma. Lawrence Butler is going to be the dude once he figures this out. So I realize it's not great expectations for the Oakland A's for 2024, but that's the way things have been laid out here. I don't want to lead you on in the wrong direction and make you think that things are different than they are. That's kind of how it looks for this team, and I think that's what they're up against for 2024. Hey, you made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll greatly help me and this channel. And by the way, if you're not subscribing, please just take a second, go down there, do it right now, so that I can definitely see you back here next time.